not the locksmith, not Haywood Highsmith or shameless Highsmith as my guy Royal calls him on the basement, man. This is a sad one as the Miami Heat have officially traded Haywood Highsmith out of nowhere. Broke my heart in the middle of the day. I was stunned. I was sitting in my living room actually working on the video that I was gonna post today, which is a win-loss predicting every game of the Heat regular season. Now that the schedule dropped yesterday, I was gonna post that video within an hour or two. Next thing I know, I look down at my phone and I see a Bleacher Report notification from Shams. And then I open up Twitter and he says, the Miami Heat have officially traded Haywood Highsmith and a 2032 second round pick to the Brooklyn Nets for a heavily protected 2026 second round pick. Now, of course, I'm sad. I like Highsmith, which, 2 or 3 years ago, I would have been stunned to hear myself ever say those words. Because there was a point in time where seeing Highsmith on the court was infuriating to me because I didn't think he was an NBA player. He couldn't shoot. His dribbling was worse than me, and that says a lot because I cannot dribble for anything. I can't dribble for crap. But anytime he touched the ball, he was a walking turnover. And they always said, oh, he's good defensively. He's got a good wingspan. Every time I looked at Haywood, he was getting scored on. I never heard the phrase, good defense, better offense, more than when Haywood Highsmith was guarding someone. And, that was 3 years ago at this point where I felt this way about him. I didn't think he was an NBA player. But as of last season, I was a big fan. I was officially converted into a Haywood Highsmith believer because his growth on the court was truly phenomenal. You can tell he was a guy that was busting his ass in the gym, and he went from a guy who couldn't dribble at all to a guy who had a nice little spin move to get into the lane. He was a very reliable three-point shooter. It was close to 40% in the corners these last couple of seasons, and he turned himself into a hell of an NBA player. And then he went from a guy that I thought was overrated defensively to a guy I was calling the Tatum stopper. So I really did like Haywood Highsmith, and I thought he could have had a nice role on this Heat team. But no, they decide to shed his contract for purely salary cap purposes. I do want to preface the rest of this video by stating, if this is the Heat's only move, I do not like it. Actually, I hate it, and we'll get into why. But I do want to keep in mind that maybe they have another move up their sleeve. We'll have to see what follows in the coming weeks. We're still about a month and a half away from training camp, so we will see. But if this is the only move the Heat do for the rest of the summer, then the reason that I hate it is because it is another example of the Heat losing their own assets to shed salary or to get off of a contract. And then they always wonder why when a star asks for a trade, they don't have enough assets to get the star. And it's because of horrible asset management moves just like this. And to elaborate, maybe you're confused. Maybe you're saying, hey, the Heat attached a second round pick to Haywood Highsmith, but they're also getting one back from the Nets. Well, Shams revealed just a couple of minutes ago that pick from the Brooklyn Nets is protected from pick 31 to 55. Mind you, the second round is only picks 31 to 60. So the only way the Miami Heat actually get this second round pick next year is if the Nets happen to pick 56, 57, 58, 59, or 60. And considering the Nets are probably going to be one of the worst teams in the league next year, they will pick towards the top of the second round, meaning the Heat will never, ever see this pick. And as of right now, the Miami Heat actually only have one second round pick available, one, which is in 2027. That is insane to think about for a team that has nothing to show for it. And a lot of people might say, oh, second round picks are no big deals. But so many times we see second round picks be the assets that can push a trade over the top. How many times do you see a star go for a few first round picks and then 5 second round picks? That's the type of assets that if you're in a bidding war against a team for Giannis Antetokounmpo or another guy that becomes available, those second round picks can give you the edge. Or if you are a competitive team next year, the year after that, then you can get a very reliable role player for 3 or 4 second round picks. We've seen that happen before too. But now you're Miami and you have no second round picks. You got one, but nothing to show for it. Think about it. You lost a first-round pick to get off of Dwayne Dedmon's contract. And they signed Dwayne Dedmon to a deal a couple years back that was several $1 million over the minimum when he was barely a minimum player at the time. He probably wasn't even an NBA player. I could have lived if it was a minimum. No, he was getting paid like $6 or $7 million. It might have even been more than that. And he said, oh, he'll be a tradable contract. Guess what? He wasn't. You attached the second-round pick to get off of him. Victor Oladipo, our guy, we love Depot. I'm hoping he makes an NBA comeback. I'd love to see him in Miami. But obviously, he got hurt. And then you ended up attaching 2 second-round picks to Victor Oladipo to get off his contract when you sent him to the Thunder before they waived him. And then you wonder how the Thunder have so many assets and they got a potential dynasty on their hands. It's because they made moves like that to, when they were a bad team, to bring in bad contracts with picks, and now that allows them to be the scariest team in the NBA. Because not only did they bottom out and hit on their draft picks with J-Dub and Chet, but they also traded their stars when they knew they weren't going to keep them and got nice young talent like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And then while they were bad for the first few years of Shai's tenure with OKC, they kept taking on these picks. In addition to Oladipo, remember they took on KZ Okpala from Miami for additional draft capital? They made those right moves to have all the assets, so right now they're an unstoppable force. But Miami keeps wanting to play the mediocre game. They keep wanting to hang around the middle, and then they get cheap, and then they want to attach second-round picks to get off these guys. Like Haywood Highsmith, you just signed him a year ago. And a year later, you're attaching a second-round pick to get off of him? Are you kidding me? Why sign him in the first place? Did you think he was going to be a piece to help you win the championship last season? Oh my God, that's just absolutely horrible asset management. And then you look at a team like the Brooklyn Nets, they have tons of cap space, and they're doing the right thing. They bottomed out. They're going to try to hit on their draft picks. They had 4 first-round picks last year, took 3 point guards, 4 if you count Danny Wolf, point guard in a center's body. One of them is bound to hit. And while those few guys take a few years to kind of get their NBA careers going, the Nets are going to keep taking on these bad contracts like a Michael Porter Jr. and a first-round pick. Like Haywood Highsmith, who's not a bad contract, but they're taking on his salary and a second-round pick so they can continue to build their asset pool and kind of go the same route that OKC did, with their current build. Now, the Nets don't have a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because I guess they traded KD, was their star. I guess the KD was the Nets version of the OKC Thunder having Paul George, I guess. But obviously they ended up trading him for Mikal Bridges, but then they flipped him for all those first round picks. So the Nets are kind of doing the rebuild the right way. That's how I think you build a team in today's NBA. You bottom out, you get the high draft picks, and then while you're working to get good, you take on these bad contracts with all of these picks. And Miami's just doing it ass backwards, losing another asset for Haywood Highsmith, who you just signed last year. And the thing is, Haywood's a good player. A great 3-and-D player, someone that any team could use, only making $5.6 million. He's expiring, so he's not a long-term commitment. And Miami had to attach a pick to get off of him? Are you kidding me? You couldn't wait until the end of the season and maybe dump him or go to the trade deadline, see which team thinks a Highsmith can maybe put them over the top or need some more shooting or 3-and-D play, anything like that? You couldn't wait? Because yes, I understand, the Miami Heat wanted to get under the luxury tax, which they were able to do with this trade. We'll get into that a little bit more later. But you have until the end of the season to get under the luxury tax. You could have seen what opened up between now and then. Maybe if Fontecchio plays well and you can ship him to a contender at the deadline to shed his salary. Maybe Terry Rozier, the feds, cancel his contract. I don't know. There's a million different possibilities of things that could happen between now and the trade deadline where maybe you could have got under the luxury tax without having to attach a second-round pick. To do it right now is just absolutely asinine. It is. Really is. And then you watch, the Nets are going to end up flipping Highsmith at the deadline and get even more assets for him. Just playing from Miami for a damn fool. A guy who's not a fool, Haywood Highsmith. He got a little bit of a bag from Norman Powell to change his jersey number from 24 to 8, and now he's not even here anymore. So I wonder if Norman is still going to pay up. That's actually kind of a funny thing to think about. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't say I'm happy for Highsmith. I'm assuming he liked it here. Otherwise, he wouldn't have re-signed. But, I hope it works out for him because I am a Highsmith fan at the end of the day. What else do we got here? Of course, he's recovering from his knee surgery, so we do want to wish him well. He was a guy that's might have been ready for the start of the season, still a little bit iffy, but from Miami's perspective, like, it don't matter. You know, he was going to be ready at some point early in the year, and I think he was going to be a big rotation piece for Miami. But anyways, the Heat, they do get under the luxury tax. Yassi Goslin put a pretty good breakdown of where the Miami Heat stand now from a salary cap standpoint. Basically, we have a $5.6 million trade exception, which the Heat are likely not going to use. And the most important thing here that I want to point out with all these numbers is the Heat went from slightly over the luxury tax to now $4 million under the luxury tax, which now means that they can sign another minimum player without going over the luxury tax. Of course, you know, before this deal, the Heat had one roster spot open, but they really likely weren't going to fill it because they were over the luxury tax. Well, now that the Heat shedded this salary, we are able to sign one more player. And also, the Heat have to sign one more player. I believe now you do have to have 14 players under a standard contract. So the Heat will make a move to add someone probably before the start of the season. I don't know exactly who yet. Of course, this does allow the Miami Heat to maybe revisit Drew Smith, who for a while we thought he was eligible for another two-way because he has less than 4 years NBA experience. However, he's already signed 3 separate two-ways with the Miami Heat, and you're not actually allowed to sign a fourth. So if they were going to bring Drew Smith back, it had to be on a standard. Now they are able to do so, although he's a completely different position than Haywood Highsmith, but brings some of the same things defensively in terms of perimeter defense, point of attack defense. I think the Heat need some more of that, especially with Haywood gone now. Obviously, Davion Mitchell and Bam would do that, but you need more. Drew Smith could do that if he was healthy, or maybe it does allow the Heat to get a guy like Kai Jones, someone they worked out last week, someone that I've talked about in the past. I would like to see him on the Heat's roster. I think there's a high upside there. Point is, the Heat have some minimum contract space to work with. It just sucks you had to attach a second-round pick to get off Highsmith. I don't agree with that whatsoever. You know, in terms of actually filling his role in the rotation with guys that are still here, we knew Pelle Larsson was going to be a big part of the rotation. That hasn't changed. You know, if anything, he'll get some more run, and maybe Kashad Johnson now, because the Heat were so eager to give Kashad Johnson a standard contract when he could have been on a two-way. And truthfully, I don't think he's going to be in the rotation, at least not before this Highsmith trade. And part of that is because I don't think he's ready yet. Y'all know I love Kashad. I think he'll be a great player, a great rotation player in this league one day. But based off the summer league, he's not ready yet. Had some great games, had some bad ones. So I don't think he's ready yet. Now, they don't really have a choice. He's on a standard contract. You kind of need to play him. Otherwise, they should have just gave him a two-way deal. But that's basically where things stand as far as the Haywood Highsmith trade. Sad to see my guy go, but I do wish him the absolute best. Anyways, let me know what y'all think down in the comment section below. Maybe drop some of your favorite Haywood Highsmith memories. I remember him playing well in the 2023 finals. Remember him locking down Tatum in the playoffs. So drop some of your Haywood memories down below. Also, I did not mention, make sure to fill out my Family Feud question form linked in the description below. I made a Google form asking random Miami Heat Family Feud style questions because I do plan on doing a little bit of a battle between your favorite Heat content creators in the coming weeks. So if you want to be a part of that, drop your answers in that Google form below. I do greatly appreciate it. Shout out to FanDuel. I didn't mention them yet. I might have to do an edit cut in earlier in this video because I gotta show some love to the sponsor. But yeah, subscribe. Like the video, all that good stuff. See y'all on the next one. Peace out, everyone.
Look, pull up in the city tryna get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.